Have you ever sat back and wondered what kind of absolute slaughter would go down if the literal gods of DC faced off against Marvel's mightiest heroes? We are talking about the battle of the century, the war we've all been dreaming of seeing on the big screen for years. The Justice League versus the Avengers. Superman versus Thor. Batman versus Iron Man. This isn't just your average run-of-the-mill comparison video. This is the ultimate war to crown the king of the entire comic book multiverse. And look, we're not here for biased fanboy takes today. We are breaking this down piece by piece. Straight comic facts, IQ, speed, and raw physical strength, putting these two legendary teams head-to-head to find out, once and for all, who walks out of this battlefield alive. So strap yourselves in, because your logic is about to be pushed to the absolute limit. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another insane hype video. I hope you're all doing awesome. Man, the Marvel versus DC debate never gets old. But when it comes to their flagship teams, the Justice League and the Avengers, things get personal real quick. Both of these teams have saved realities, dismantled multiversal villains, and turned the most powerful entities to dust. But if timelines ever crossed and these two armies clashed, who is left standing? Now, before we jump into part 2, break down every single member and compare their power levels, do me a quick favor. Smash that like button right now, hit subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Also, drop a comment right now before watching the analysis. Who do you have winning this, Marvel or DC? Alright guys, before we sound the war horns and throw these two teams at each other's throats, we need to establish one crucial rule. Both the Justice League and the Avengers have had hundreds of members over decades of comic history. So, to keep this match fair, logical, and incredibly hype, we've picked the top 7 core and most iconic members from each side to form the front lines of this war. Let's start with Team DC, the Justice League. Their 7 heavy hitters stepping into the arena are Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Barry Allen, Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, Aquaman, Martian Manhunter. Now, let's look across the battlefield at Team Marvel, the Avengers. Their 7 warriors are Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Hulk, Quicksilver, Black Widow, Hawkeye. Alright, now that our 7v7 lineup is set, let's take a look at the lore, the feats, and the sheer potential of these two legendary armies before we ring the bell for round 1. Because honestly, until we look at the impossible things these characters have pulled off, we can't truly appreciate the absolute scale of this war. First off, the Justice League. When you look at the Justice League, you're basically looking at a club of actual gods. This team is completely built around absolute, mythical, superhuman powers. You've got Superman, who literally defines the word unlimited, a guy who can move entire planets, fly at the speed of light, and whose energy source, the sun, makes him an immortal powerhouse. Right next to him stands Wonder Woman, the Amazonian princess with thousands of years of military training, whose weapons were forged by the ancient Greek gods themselves, and who has zero hesitation when it comes to killing. Then we have Martian Manhunter, who is basically a walking cheat code. We're talking raw muscle that matches Superman, plus terrifying telepathy that can hack the minds of an entire team instantly. Add to that the absolute speed of the Flash, the cosmic willpower of Green Lantern, the boundless army of Aquaman, and of course the genius, ruthless contingency plans of Batman. The Justice League isn't a team that just fights. They're a squad that can shut down multiversal threats in a fraction of a second. Unlike DC, the Avengers aren't a team of gods. They're a team of humans, mutants, and heroes trying to fill the shoes of gods. The Avengers' greatest strength is their synergy, teamwork, and die-hard spirit. They've got Thor, the actual Asgardian god of thunder who controls cosmic lightning with his hammer Mjolnir and has 1,000 years of battle experience across the realms. Right beside him is the Hulk, the embodiment of pure rage, whose strength becomes infinite the angrier he gets, with literally no limit to his destructive power. Iron Man is the tech mastermind of the team, with armor that can adapt to any threat. And Captain America is the leader who can rally the team's morale from rock bottom to the absolute sky with a single speech. Now throw in the breakneck speed of Quicksilver, the deadly espionage skills of Black Widow, and the tactical engineered arrows of Hawkeye. On paper, the Avengers might not look as godlike as DC, but they are the ones who have made the impossible happen time and time again, proving that when they stand united, even Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet can't beat them. Now that we know exactly what kind of heavy hitters we're dealing with, it's time to dive into the clash between these two groups. Alright guys, let's cut the small talk and jump straight into the first, most hype, and most brutal factor of this comparison: raw physical strength and muscle power. In this section, we want to see what happens if the heaviest hitters from both teams throw down. Which side can actually survive the bone-crushing blows of the other? Let's start with Team Marvel, because they've got two of the most terrifying monsters in comic book history holding down the front lines: Thor and the Hulk. Look, when we talk about the Hulk's physical strength, we are talking about a creature whose power, according to official Marvel comic lore, is literally limitless. In the Secret Wars comic, Hulk literally held up a 150 billion-ton mountain range on his back just to keep the other heroes from getting crushed. And in World War Hulk, his punches were so violently heavy that the Earth's fault lines shifted with every single step he took. On the flip side, we've got Thor, the god of thunder, who has moved literal planets in the comics with his bare hands, without even using his hammer, and whose punches have literally shaken the very fabric of reality and time. The combined muscle power of Hulk and Thor is quite frankly an unstoppable force of destruction that could plow through any galaxy. But now turn your heads and look at Team DC, where Superman, Wonder Woman, and Martian Manhunter are standing. Superman's physical strength in the comics completely defies logic. We are talking about a man of steel who literally moved an entire solar system during the Bronze Age. In more modern comics, Superman pushed the weight of the entire Earth on a bench press machine for 5 straight days in a facility with zero sunlight, and he didn't even break a single drop of sweat. Now put Wonder Woman next to this infinite being, someone with so much raw power that she has routinely helped Superman pull cosmic objects, and whose Amazonian bracelets can block the direct strikes of the gods themselves. And our third heavy hitter is the Martian Manhunter, who a lot of people sleep on, but his base physical strength is completely on par with Superman. In one famous comic, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Martian Manhunter teamed up and used Wonder Woman's magic lasso to literally pull the entire planet Earth out of its orbit. So, what happens when these two physical front lines crash into each other?
In a pure, raw fistfight, Thor and Hulk are an absolute nightmare for any living being. Hulk gets angrier and stronger with every hit he takes, and Thor never backs down. But DC's sheer numbers and cosmic advantage dictate the pace here. Marvel has two absolute physical titans, Thor and Hulk, but DC has 3 beings who can each casually move a planet on their own: Superman, Wonder Woman, and Martian Manhunter. Sure, Hulk could push Wonder Woman to her absolute limits, and Thor could drag Martian Manhunter into a bloody war. And let's be real, there's a huge catch here. Thor could totally exploit Martian Manhunter's weakness and take him out with a massive blast of lightning. But the second Superman flies into the mix with all that raw power charged directly from the core of the sun, the scales of physical strength heavily tip toward DC. No matter how mad Hulk gets, he still has a baseline level he has to start the fight at and build up from, whereas Superman's base power level is already at peak cosmic scale from the very first second of the match. So, with all due respect to Hulk's endless rage and Thor's Asgardian majesty, round 1 and the point for raw physical strength goes to DC's Justice League by a hair. Alright guys, we've made it to the second factor, which is none other than durability, physical invulnerability, and biological Achilles heels. In this part, we are going to completely dissect the defensive wall of DC's gods, the Justice League. First up, let's talk about the team's main tank, Superman. When it comes to raw durability, Superman's skin is basically an endless concrete wall. His body can casually tank the strongest nuclear bombs, cosmic lasers, and exploding planets. In the comics, Superman has literally flown straight through the molten core of a star without even singing his hair. But let's look at the physical bug and weakness of this Man of Steel. We all know kryptonites or magic can mess him up, but his true structural vulnerability is his cell's dependency on yellow solar radiation. Meaning, if Iron Man can use his tech to simulate an environment saturated with red sun radiation, or completely cut Superman off from sunlight, Superman's cell density drops to the level of a normal human within minutes. At that point, a single physical blow from the Hulk could literally powder his bones. Next in line is the Amazonian princess, Wonder Woman.
When it comes to tanking blunt force trauma, massive explosions, and cosmic energy, Wonder Woman is incredible, and thanks to her demigod physiology, she's got a crazy fast healing factor. Her bracelets, which were forged from the aegis of Zeus, can literally deflect any type of energy or projectile in the universe. But what's Wonder Woman's physical bug? Unlike Superman, who is completely impenetrable, Wonder Woman's body tissue is actually vulnerable to piercing weapons. So while her skin might survive a massive explosion, if Hawkeye lands a tactical arrow made from a super sharp heavy alloy, or if someone slashes her with a magical sword, her skin will slice right open, causing severe bleeding. But the most bizarre and at the same time most vulnerable powerhouse on the DC side is none other than Martian Manhunter.
Defensively, this Martian is so insane that he can drop his molecular density to 0, meaning physical strikes from the Hulk or Thor's hammer would literally pass right through the middle of his body without leaving a scratch. But guys, Martian Manhunter has a terrifying biological and psychological weakness coded into his cell structure: fire and extreme heat. Open flames literally tear this Martian's molecular bonds apart, weakening his physical form and completely frying his telepathy. This means Iron Man, using the thermal systems in his armor, could quite literally melt this Martian giant. Finally, we have the lower tier members like Batman, the Flash, and Green Lantern. While the Flash has a fast healing factor thanks to the Speed Force, his skin isn't bulletproof, and if his speed gets neutralized, his durability bug is wide open. Batman wears some insane armor, but at the end of the day, he's still just a human. If a heavy punch from the Hulk connects, it's game over. As for Green Lantern, his durability is entirely dependent on his ring's shield energy. If his focus breaks or his ring overloads, his physical body is no different from an ordinary human's. So on paper, the Justice League looks like an impenetrable fortress, but their physical and biological Achilles heels are completely out in the open. Now, we're going to head over to the Avengers to see how the durability and bodily bugs of Marvel's army stack up. Alright guys, we just saw what crazy bugs DC's gods have in their physical makeup. Now, it's time to dissect the defensive wall of Marvel's army, the Avengers, and see if these heroes can actually survive the crushing blows of the Justice League, or if they're going to get absolutely ripped apart. Let's start with Marvel's Green Goliath, the Hulk. When it comes to durability and invulnerability, Hulk is literally a biological miracle. His skin is completely bulletproof against shrapnel, gunfire, nuclear blasts, and even cosmic rays. Even cooler is Hulk's insane healing factor. It's so mind-blowing that even if his internal organs get completely destroyed, his cells regenerate within seconds. But what's Hulk's physical bug? His brain and nervous system. No matter how tough Hulk's skin is, intense sonic waves or specific frequencies can completely lock up his brain and nervous system, leaving his body paralyzed. Martian Manhunter could easily use his mental waves to shut down Hulk's physiology from the inside out without ever needing to pierce his skin. Next up is Odin's son, Thor. Thor is an Astardian god, meaning his cell structure and bone density are hundreds of times denser than an average human's. He literally tanked the raw thermal energy of a dying star just to ford Stormbreaker. But Thor's physical bug is that his body's unbelievable durability is heavily dependent on his worthiness and his connection to his hammer Mjolnir or his weapon. It's been proven in the comics that if Thor gets psychologically broken, or if a spell messes with his worthiness, that absolute demigod factor gets stripped from his body, and his durability drops to the level of an ordinary Asgardian, who can absolutely be wounded by bullets and swords. That's something Batman could easily exploit with his plans. Now let's move on to Iron Man and Captain America. Tony Stark is just a regular guy without a suit, but his modern nanotechnology armor, like the Prime models, can absorb and deflect heavy cosmic hits. However, the structural bug in Tony's armor is the reactor core's capacity limit and energy overload. If Green Lantern or Superman hit the armor with focused energy beams, the suit's filtering system overheats, Tony passes out inside from the extreme heat, and the entire defensive system shuts down.
As for Captain America, the situation is clear. His vibranium shield is completely impenetrable because it absorbs vibrations. But Steve's physical bug is that his body is still bound by the biological limits of a super soldier, meaning if a hit lands on the unshielded parts of his body, like his legs or the back of his head, he's going to bleed, and his bones will shatter just like any other human. When it comes to Quicksilver, Black Widow, and Hawkeye, there's honestly not much to say. They have zero superhuman protective layers on their skin. Quicksilver is only alive as long as his speed doesn't fall short against the Flash, and Black Widow and Hawkeye would get turned to dust instantly by the slightest physical blow from Wonder Woman. When we weigh the bugs and durability of both teams, we see that the Justice League has more invulnerable beings, but their physical weaknesses, like cutting off Superman from sunlight or using fire against Martian Manhunter, can be easily replicated by Iron Man's tech. On the other hand, the Avengers have vulnerable human members, but their two main techs, Thor and Hulk, have much more stable physical durability and can't be neutralized by a simple environmental element. However, because of Green Lantern's energy armor advantage and Superman's naturally impenetrable skin, this round ends in a super close tie. DC takes the edge in raw physical toughness, but Marvel plays it smarter by not having such obvious physical Achilles heels. Alright guys, the bell just rang for round 2, and we've officially arrived at the one factor that can turn every single calculation of strength and durability to ash in a fraction of a second. Speed, reaction time, and split-second reflexes. In this section, we are dissecting Team DC and the Justice League, the home of the fastest beings ever created in the history of fiction. The Flash's speed in the comics completely defies the laws of physics. Barry Allen is plugged directly into a limitless energy source called the Speed Force. His speed isn't just supersonic or faster than light. In the comics, the Flash has run billions of times faster than the speed of light. One time, he literally picked up and saved the entire population of a city during an explosion in less than a picosecond, which is 1/1,000,000th of a second. The Flash can even vibrate his molecules at high speeds to pass clean through solid walls, or even Thor's hammer blows, a little trick called phasing. But let's look at the Flash's speed bug and vulnerability, his brain and environmental gravity. No matter how fast he runs, if an opponent can drop the ground temperature to absolute zero, where molecules literally stop moving, or completely erase all friction, the Flash is going to have a brutal time trying to accelerate. On top of that, if he's standing still and gets blindsided, his reaction time drops significantly. Meaning if Tony Stark can pull off a strategic trick to disorient the Flash, or trap him in a time loop, his speed is practically neutralized. Next up, once again, is the Man of Steel, Superman. A lot of people think Superman is just all muscle, but his flight speed and reflexes are right up there with the Flash. Superman has routinely crossed galactic distances in a matter of seconds, and his brain processes information so fast that he can look at bullets flying through the air as if they were frozen statues. But what's Superman's speed bug? A lack of agility in tight, close-quarter ground maneuvers. Superman flies in a straight line at the speed of light, but in a ground-level fistfight, his hand speed and rotational reflexes don't match the Flash or even top-tier martial artists.
This means if an opponent can predict his movements, they can exploit the tiny gaps between Superman's faster-than-light attacks. Alongside them, we've got Wonder Woman, whose reaction time with her bracelets is so insane that she can block thousands of laser beams in a single second, and Martian Manhunter, whose cosmic flight keeps him neck and neck with Superman. But let's look at the Justice League's team bug in the speed department. DC's speedsters, Flash and Superman, are so blindingly fast that they sometimes completely desync from the slower members of the team, like Batman and Aquaman. This means if Batman is trying to execute a tactical plan in the middle of the battlefield, the breakneck speed of Flash and Superman might push them way ahead of the team's schedule. That speed-driven solo acting can easily open up a massive blind spot for the league. With all that said about DC's gods of speed, how do you think Team Marvel and their resident speedster mutant, Quicksilver, are going to survive this storm? Now it's time to dissect the defensive wall of Marvel's army, the Avengers, and see how their speed, reaction time, and split-second reflexes stack up, and find out exactly where their speed bug is hidden. In the Marvel Universe, Quicksilver is an absolute prodigy. His movement and brain processing speed are so incredibly high that while the world moves normally for us, time practically stands still for Pietro. But let's look at Quicksilver's physical bug and speed weakness, biological limitations, and physical fatigue. Unlike the Flash, who is plugged into the infinite energy of the Speed Force and doesn't know the meaning of tired, Quicksilver's speed depends entirely on his own physiology and metabolism. This means after sprinting at max speed for a while, his body builds up lactic acid, his muscles get exhausted, and his speed drops hard. Worse yet, his reaction time in hand-to-hand combat has a psychological bug. He is heavily impatient and loses focus easily. That impatient means Batman or Green Lantern could easily trip him up with a simple trap and send him face-planting into the ground. Next up is the god of thunder, Thor.
It might sound funny, but when it comes to cosmic flight speed, Thor is an absolute beast. When Thor hurls Mjolnir and grabs onto the strap, he can travel through the deep cosmic at multiple times the speed of light. But where is Thor's speed bug? It's his combat speed. Thor might be lightning fast in a straight flight path, but his punching speed and split-second reactions in a tight fighting ring are completely on par with a regular smart fighter. In the comics, more agile characters have routinely dodged Thor's hammer strikes because his bodily combat speed just doesn't match his flying speed. Iron Man can reach sonic speeds using his armor's thrusters, and his suit's AI, like Jarvis or Friday, boost Tony's reaction rates by scanning the opponent's movements. But his bug is that if the armor's targeting systems get hacked or overloaded by the Flash or Martian Manhunter, Tony's reaction speed plummets right back down to a normal human's. Captain America and Black Widow have peak human reflexes and excellent reaction times, enough to dodge bullets, but on the cosmic speed scale of this war, they basically look like frozen snails. Hulk can make massive leaps, but his movement speed is completely slow and predictable, making him a sitting duck for DC speedsters. In the speed department, Marvel honestly stands zero chance. Quicksilver might be the fastest man in the Marvel universe, but putting his speed against the Flash is like comparing a regular car to a supersonic fighter jet.
The Flash is so much faster than Pietro that he could loop around the entire Earth and stand right behind him before Quicksilver can even take a single step. On top of that, Superman is miles ahead of Thor and Hulk in hand-to-hand combat speed. Quicksilver's physical fatigue bug and the low reaction speeds of Marvel's tanks mean the Justice League takes the absolute win in this category. So, with total dominance, the speed and reflexes round goes to DC's Justice League, thanks to the Flash and Superman. Welcome to round 3 of this breakdown, a factor that revolves entirely around intelligence, tactics, and mind games. In the comic world, it's been proven time and time again that having raw power without a solid strategy is just a one-way ticket to a massive L. In this section, we're going to see how both teams' think tanks are set up and look at the mental blind spots these characters have that the other side can exploit. First, let's completely dissect the minds of the Justice League. When you hear the words intelligence and tactics in the DC universe, the very first name that comes up is none other than Batman, Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is officially recognized as the master strategist of the entire comic book world. Batman's biggest cheat code is without a doubt prep time. He has designed custom contingency plans for every single member of his own team, from Superman to the Flash, just in case they ever lose control and need to be put down. Batman's theoretical and in-combat IQ is at the absolute peak of possibility, and he can weaponize an enemy's psychological weakness against them in a split second. But Bruce Wayne's mental bug and Achilles' heel is his strategic paranoia. Batman has zero trust in anyone, including his closest allies. This deep trust issue means he rarely shares his master plans with the rest of the squad. That secrecy and solo acting can completely wreck the team's synergy right in the middle of a massive war, opening up a huge blind spot for the League. Next up in DC's think tank is Martian Manhunter, John Johns. The League's resident Martian doesn't just have a massive IQ. Thanks to his telepathy, he can build a connected hive mind between all members of the Justice League to instantly download Batman's plans straight into their heads. But John's mental bug is his emotional vulnerability, due to his past trauma and the destruction of his home planet. If an opponent can mess with his head or psychologically trigger him, his focus snaps and the entire team's communication network goes dead. So, the Justice League has an absolute mastermind in Batman who can take down anyone given enough prep time, but his paranoia and solo acting are the biggest threats to their actual teamwork.
Now that we've broken down DC's think tank, it's time to dissect Team Marvel, the Avengers, in the intelligence, strategy, and mental weakness department. Unlike the opposing team, the Avengers don't rely on a single person to run the battlefield. Instead, they lock in using a mix of two completely different types of intellect: engineering genius and on-field tactical leadership. Marvel's main powerhouse in the theoretical and tech department is Iron Man, Tony Stark. Tony Stark is an absolute savant when it comes to adaptive engineering. His biggest strategic cheat code is his in-battle adaptation, driven directly by his suit's AI. His radar systems are constantly scanning the enemy's energy signatures to pinpoint their structural weak spots. If Superman or Green Lantern throw a specific energy construct at him, Tony can reprogram his armor in seconds to neutralize that exact frequency. But his mental bug is his massive God complex and his tendency to make split-second emotional decisions.
If Batman can play mind games, bring up past traumas, and completely rattle Tony, he will make catastrophic calculation errors managing his armor. Right beside him is the ultimate battlefield commander, Captain America, Steve Rogers. If we look at Batman as the god of pre-fight prep time, Cap is the absolute king of on-the-fly tactics right in the middle of total chaos. He has the insane ability to process the tactical layout of the entire battlefield in a fraction of a second, pull the team's synergy together, and bark out orders that the squad executes in perfect sync. But Steve Rogers' strategic blind spot is his rigid adherence to a strict moral code. He fights on pure honor and loyalty. When facing a ruthless strategist like Batman, who won't hesitate to use psychological warfare, hostages, or dirty traps, Cap's honorable approach can easily become a massive trap for his own team. As for the rest of the squad's mental breakdown, Black Widow, she is the master of espionage and psychological warfare. Natasha Romanoff knows exactly how to get inside the heads of arrogant powerhouses like Wonder Woman or Superman, completely breaking their focus before the fists even start flying. Hawkeye, he has insane situational awareness and ballistic IQ. As the team's eye in the sky, he covers any strategic gaps on the battlefield. In the final breakdown for this round, DC takes the edge in long-term solo plotting thanks to Batman. But in a sudden zero-prep team brawl, the Avengers show much better cohesion in crisis management and split-second strategy, all thanks to the co-leadership system of Tony and Steve. Because of that, this round ends with a slight edge for the Avengers. Welcome to round 4 of our analysis. In this section, we are diving deep into a critical factor: combat skills in martial arts. In high-level matchups, when cosmic powers get completely neutralized by defensive shields or magic traps, it's raw martial arts skills in individual fighting techniques that decide who walks out alive. First, let's look at the skill levels of the Justice League. Without a doubt, the most elite and deadly martial artist on this squad and in the entire comic book world is Batman, Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is the absolute master of 127 deadly martial arts styles across the globe.
He has pushed his body to the absolute peak of human physical perfection, and he knows every single critical nerve and vital pressure point in biological anatomy. Batman can use his takedown and redirection techniques to completely ground enemies who are physically way stronger than him, without burning through too much energy. But Batman's combat bug, or limitation, is his human stamina. No matter how flawless his technique is, a prolonged hand-to-hand brawl with superhuman titans will eventually drain him, causing major fatigue and slowing down his reaction times. Next up on the front lines of hand-to-hand combat is the Amazonian princess, Wonder Woman, Diana Prince. Wonder Woman isn't just a demigod. She has spent thousands of years training under the greatest Amazonian warriors, making her a master of armed and unarmed combat. Her skill with a sword, shield, and spear is easily at the level of a god of war, and unlike Batman, she brings superhuman strength into the mix at the exact same time. But Wonder Woman's combat bug is her over-reliance on divine weapons. If she gets separated from her sword or her bracelets during a fight, her style instantly shifts from total offense to a hesitant defense, opening up a massive gap for the opponent to attack. Overall, the Justice League has two incredibly technical heavy hitters, Batman and Wonder Woman, at the absolute top tier of combat, but the lower layers of the team are pretty weak when it comes to actual martial arts knowledge. Now that we've broken down DC's fighters, it's time to dissect Team Marvel, the Avengers, in the hand-to-hand skill and martial arts department. The Marvel side actually has one of the most consistent offensive and defensive lines here because almost all of its core members have gone through elite military and combat training. The most legendary and iconic hand-to-hand fighter on this squad is Captain America, Steve Rogers. Cap is a complete master of multiple martial arts, including boxing, judo, jiu-jitsu, and every military hand-to-hand tactic in the book. Thanks to the super soldier serum, his brain can scan, process, and completely counter an opponent's fighting style in a matter of seconds. His greatest combat trait is his absolute mastery over shield combat. He uses his shield seamlessly as a combined tool for both offense and defense, moving smoother through the battlefield than any other fighter alive. But Captain America's combat bug, or limitation, is that his fighting style is largely predictable. It's heavily based on classic military blueprints.
An unorthodox, mold-breaking fighter like Batman could easily scramble those military calculations by suddenly shifting the entire rhythm of the brawl. Next up in the technical and infiltration department is Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff. Natasha Romanoff was trained in the infamous Red Room and is a master assassin and martial artist. Her fighting style relies on insane agility, exploiting biological pressure points, and using judo flips to completely ground enemies way bigger than her. She can predict an opponent's movement path with eyes closed. But Black Widow's combat bug is her weakness against opponents with heavy armor or impenetrable skin. In those scenarios, her lightning-fast martial arts techniques completely lose their edge. Then you have Hawkeye, who along with his absolute mastery over archery, is a phenomenal fighter in ninjutsu and sword combat, katana, making him incredibly agile in a close-quarters fistfight. In the final breakdown for this factor, even though Batman is the single most skilled individual on the entire battlefield in terms of martial arts variety, looking at it from a team perspective, the Avengers have a much higher average combat skill.
On the DC side, guys like the Flash and Green Lantern are practically defenseless without their powers. Meanwhile, on Team Marvel, Cap, Black Widow, and Hawkeye remained incredibly lethal, elite martial artists, even with zero superhuman powers. Therefore, in the hand-to-hand combat skill department, the Avengers take the team win. Welcome to Round 5 of the breakdown. In this section, we are looking at the ultimate game-changing factor, hacks and special abilities. We're talking supernatural, metaphysical powers, and unique non-physical gear. This factor includes powers that have absolutely nothing to do with raw muscle or physical speed, but can completely rewrite the rules of the battlefield or neutralize an opponent without even touching them. On the Justice League front, two main heavy hitters carry the entire weight of this category, Martian Manhunter and Green Lantern. The Martian's biggest cheat code here is his planetary-level telepathy. He can casually use mind control or cook up severe mind illusions to paralyze the opposing team or make them claw at each other's throats. His other crazy ability is phasing, vibrating his molecular density, which allows physical attacks to pass clean through his body without leaving a scratch. Right next to him, Green Lantern uses his power ring for energy construction, creating solid matter out of pure willpower, meaning he can manifest endless tactical shields or weapons out of thin air. Plus, Wonder Woman can use her lasso of truth to completely shatter any illusions or mind control, forcing any opponent into absolute submission. Now, let's see how Marvel plans to counter these absolute reality-bending cheat codes. The main limitation for this team, though, is how heavily the ring's constructs depend on the mental focus of the user, alongside the biological sensitivity of the Martian cell tissue to extreme heat. On the Avengers front, the potential in this category is distributed a bit differently. Marvel's main weapon here is Mjolnir and Stormbreaker in the hands of Thor. Beyond absolute weather manipulation, controlling lightning and cosmic storms, these weapons give Thor the power of dimensional travel via the Bifrost, which can completely alter the layout of the entire battlefield. Your next heavy hitter is Iron Man, whose evolved armor comes packed with energy absorption capabilities. This means he can literally suck in laser blasts or Green Lantern's energy constructs to supercharge his own suit. Finally, Black Widow targets the enemy's mental layers using her infiltration gear and psychological manipulation. The main limitation for the Avengers in this department is the total lack of a pure telepathy to counter the Martian's mental attacks. In the final breakdown for this round, even though Tony Stark can absorb energy and Thor brings magic and storm control to the table, Team DC holds the upper hand because their abilities are just more absolute, like Martian Manhunter's devastating telepathy and Green Lantern's endless constructs. The fact that the Avengers don't have a telepathic defender leaves them wide open to mind control and molecular phasing. Therefore, this round wraps up with a solid win for the Justice League. And that brings us to the end of this heavy, deep dive analysis. Now, it's time to put every single factor, system, and structural Achilles heel of both teams on the scales to find out who walks away as the ultimate winner in an all-out team war. If a sudden brawl breaks out, the Avengers, thanks to Tony and Steve's co-leadership system, will lock in their team synergy fast. Using Iron Man's adaptive armor alongside the devastating heavy hits of Thor and Hulk, they'd instantly wipe out DC's human layer, like Batman.
But the ultimate turning point of the war happens the exact second speed, physical strength, and telepathy enter the chat. The simultaneous physical dominance of Superman and Wonder Woman, paired with the Flash's breakneck movement and processing speed, is just too high. They can shatter Marvel's defensive lines before the Avengers can even execute their team tactics. The biggest Achilles heel for the Avengers in this war is having zero mental defense. no telepathic shield whatsoever. Martian Manhunter can casually hack into Hulk's mind, weaponizing his uncontrolled rage straight against the Avengers themselves, or completely mess with Tony Stark's nervous system using illusions. Even if Tony manages to suck in Green Lantern's energy frequencies, his armor is going to hit a massive overload and suffer total structural destruction under the synchronized onslaught of faster-than-light speed and Superman's planet-crushing blows. Marvel's army is an incredibly coordinated, brilliant war machine with stable physical durability, but the Justice League is a squad of godlike entities that completely rewrite the physical boundaries of comic book lore. The staggering advantage in speed, the crushing raw muscle of DC's top-tier powerhouses, and the devastating phase of Martian telepathy completely shut down all of the Avengers' military tactics. Therefore, despite all their incredible feats and flawless teamwork, the ultimate winner of this epic war by a super close hair is the Justice League. Alright guys, that is our full deep dive breakdown of the battle of the century between the Justice League and the Avengers. As you saw, this war isn't just about raw muscle power like most people think. Factors like speed, telepathy, and split-second tactics are what actually crown the winner. Now it's your turn. How much of a chance do you think Tony Stark and Captain America stand if they actually get some prep time to crack DC's physical fortress? Or do you think the Flash's speed and Superman's power wrap this whole thing up in the very first second? Definitely let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you guys enjoyed this video and these deep comic book breakdowns, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming matchups and breakdowns. Until the next video and the next epic war, peace out.